Welcome to another episode of the Eric Crocker Show. I'm your host, former NFL and AFL defensive back Eric Crocker. And of course, today I got a special guest coming on. And I always talk about this platform being not just my show or things for me, man, it's for y'all. And I love hearing different perspectives, different thoughts. And my guy Flave, who's coming on and joining me today, he's made some enemies on social media with some of his Trey Lance takes, but I got a chance to hear him live one time, and I said, you know what? I think people, they might need to hear this version of Flav and not so much the trolling version. All right, I hope everybody's doing good today. I see the flames coming in. We're starting a little bit later in the evening. What is it, 2 p.m. Central Time, noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern Time? So I hope y'all have already gotten in your workouts, said your prayers, all that good stuff. Just getting your day started off right, man. So, yeah, this is fun stuff. I hope everybody is doing well. Make sure you guys subscribe and
subscribe to this video.
yeah. Subscribe, like, all that good stuff. All right. But I'm excited. I see that. Listen, for people who say they don't like confrontation or don't like this and that, I haven't seen my chat popping like this before I even clicked live in a long time. I mean, there were already 30, 40 comments in there. People already, maybe more than that. There's a lot in there. And I get this all the time. And we're going to tie in Grant Cohn in this as well, because Grant, I remember we brought him on Locked On 49ers. And there were a lot of people, don't bring on Grant Cohn. I would not be listening to it. We saw a lot of that. During that time, it was the most listened to episode that we had. So y'all love confrontation. Y'all act like y'all want to stop talking about the quarterbacks. Y'all don't want to stop talking about the quarterbacks, because right now, I think the chat is proof of that. And you know what? I think it's time. I see everybody in here, everybody flowing in here, everybody feeling good. We're going to bring them on now. All right. So with no further ado, y'all welcome my guy, Flave.
What's up, man? Appreciate you having me on, man. I'm a big fan. I watch your show all the time, and this is really cool. So thank you.
Thank you. Again, I appreciate you watching the show, but like I said, the show is not so much about me, and I just love to hear different perspectives, man. This is the people's show. This is the fans' show. And first and foremost, if I'm not mistaken, you are a fan of the San Francisco 49ers. Is that correct?
Yeah, I love the Niners, man. There's so much history and memories and so much joy that I've had growing up watching the Niners, and so it's a huge part of my life. But I think probably not as big as a lot of people think it is. I just like to have fun with it, and there's so much controversy around the team now. It seems like, I mean, for years and years, it was like we knew who our quarterback was, and really, it's been, I don't know, the last few years where people decided they were over Jimmy. And that's when all this kind of started. And, say what you want to say. I can't even imagine what it's like without the controversy. I kind of feel like it would be kind of boring, So it's kind of weird that it's, keeps us so entertained during these times of the year where there's not really a lot going on. So it's going to be interesting when it is finally over. What the hell are we going to talk about?
Right. And, I know I've had, I look at my YouTube comments sometimes, and there are a lot of people like, man, can we talk about something other than quarterbacks? And I would love to talk about something other than quarterbacks. I would love to not have to have that conversation. But in all actuality, from a content creator standpoint, dude, I post something about Brock Purdy. It gets over 100 comments. And even this title here, a little clickbaity, kind of clickbaity, where it's like known Trey Lance hater, adding those type of things, because the fans love controversy. The fans love diving into those type of topics, and that's the most interaction we get. All right. So I see my guy Fish and Chips, and he says, "Why this, Croc? You're better than this." No, man, this is fun. This is fun. This is exactly what this is for, man, to hear two sides, whether you feel like I'm the angel and Flav is the devil, or however you want to look at it. It's really all just for conversation. And I talk about that's what this show is for. And I hope that everyone has an open mind with everything. So we're going to start it off. I would say I found out who Flav was because I look at this account, it keeps popping up on my timeline, and I just see a whole lot of, in my eyes, what I see is this guy doesn't like Trey Lance at all, right? And you go through your Twitter account and you see, everything that you post. And I think last when I went to go send you a DM with this link, I saw like a picture and it was somebody like holding up an L with Trey Lance. So
Oh yeah.
I think that's fun. I think sometimes that you
Yeah.
need like that type of interaction. It makes a lot of this more fun. But one would say that you are exactly what this title says, a Trey Lance hater. So
Mhm.
before we really get into the details of, your thoughts on his game, was it the right or wrong pick or the way that they chose to develop him? Just your overall thoughts for maybe some people that only go off of what you think on Twitter and want to
Mhm.
hear a more deep dive version of what you think about just Trey Lance as a prospect and player.
Yeah. Well, I guess, my thing is, when I come onto your show, this is kind of like the second time I've been like a guest on a show. I've done some call-ins and stuff, but I'm never gonna disrespect you and I try to be as easygoing as possible with regard to my takes and that sort of thing because um I want it to be my true feelings, and I want those to come across. When I think about Twitter, I feel like people kind of go crazy on Twitter with what they say, and it's kind of like the extreme of people. And so on there, you'll see me kind of going over the top with my takes, trying to kind of get a rise out of people because I kind of find it funny that people get so upset about the fact that I mean, and that's my problem too. It's like I don't hate Trey Lance, like I don't hate him at all as a person, and I'm sure I don't know him personally, but from everything I've heard, great person, smart. Obviously he's a great athlete too. Like if I say Trey Lance sucks, I don't mean that he sucks at football. If you're in the NFL, you're better than 99.9% of people that have ever played football before ever. So, I know that he doesn't suck at football. What I'm saying is he a top 10 quarterback? And if he's not, then maybe that means you suck by NFL standards, or are you not a starting quarterback? Then, do you suck by NFL standards? And so, that's sort of my thing is like, it's not really a personal thing for me with regard to Trey Lance. I don't hate him. I just don't particularly think he's a good NFL quarterback. And yeah, I think it was a terrible draft pick. But it has nothing to do with anything other than that. And but at the same time, too, do like my feelings for some of his supporters and that sort of thing. Like, I don't care for some of them. Some of them are nice and level headed, and we can have like a good discussion back and forth, which I love to have as well. But some of them are so over the top, and it takes it personal, and that makes me want to respond in a way that is kind of going to get under their skin, you know.
So, what were your thoughts when you heard with the third pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, San Francisco 49ers select quarterback Trey Lance out of North Dakota State? Your thoughts?
So, man, when we traded up and it became clear that we were taking a quarterback, and we had the third pick. So, I think my initial thought was that they know Sala, and they probably felt like they knew Sala, and he was going to uh, probably try to get a defender, like a defensive player, to build his team around, like his Nick Bosa or something, because they felt like they knew him. And so I really felt like they kind of felt like they had inside information that Zach Wilson was going to slip to number 3, and that's why they wanted to get to that spot. Was kind of my initial sort of feeling, but I also I just felt like, we were. So that was after the 2020 year. we just had all these injuries, and I think what do we have, the 13th pick or
12.
13 or 14, 12 pick. So I understood it from a team building perspective. I think in their head they knew that they're never going to be this close to the front of the draft again. Most likely, the only reason that they was because they just had the most injury riddled season in 49 or in the NFL history, I think. And so they had this rare opportunity where they had a really good team that just happened to be all injured at the same time. And now they're sitting at number 12, and they see in the future that they're going to need a quarterback in, about 2 years. And they have all of these good players that they're going to need to pay. And so the decision is either you get a top quarterback and pay him, and you're going to lose, you know, uh, players like Debo or, these other guys that you have to pay, or they're probably sitting there saying, but, we got all the way to a Super Bowl that we felt we probably should have won. We were up 10 in the fourth quarter. And we blew that lead. It still came down to a missed pass by Jimmy. And we still could have won that game. And so we feel like our team can carry us as long as we have a serviceable quarterback. We're gonna have a shot to win. And if we can get someone that is even a little bit better than Jimmy, then we have a team that can carry us all the way there, and perhaps a quarterback that can put us over the top, or at least make it easier. And so, I understood the whole thing, and I think they wanted to get someone on a rookie deal so that they could keep that team together that they knew, if healthy, could take them all the way to the Super Bowl, or they were going to be put in contention. I just did not understand the pick at the time with Trey Lance, because again, I don't know if it was a situation where they thought that Trey was further along in his development than he was, or they thought that that they were better than they were, and it didn't matter where Trey was, that they could make it work with him and this team. But somehow they got it wrong. My personal belief is that they traded up at a time where if someone said they were going to take Mac Jones at number 3, it wouldn't have been a crazy shock to everyone. But by the time the draft came around, I think the consensus was that, Mac is going to fall. He doesn't have the athletic upside. It's not a flashy pick, and the fan base is going to have a problem with it. And so they were looking around. There was stuff coming out on Fields about his work ethic and, whether or not he worked hard and all this other stuff. And Trey Lance was like a complete unknown. And in a weird way, Trey Lance was like the safest pick from a criticism standpoint once they traded up to 3 and it became the time of the draft. And I think they kind of folded under pressure and took the guy that needed a lot of work. And now they're kind of paying the price. Like I was saying this the other day, like I've been seeing these YouTube videos lately where like these people will go up on the street to someone and say, do you want this $20 bill or do you want a mystery box? And they have like a cart full of wrapped gifts. And, you get some people that are like, I'll take the $20. And then you get the other people that are like, well, I'll take the mystery box. Some people open it up and it's like an iPad and it's like, wow, like obviously the mystery box was better. Some people open it up and it's a bag of Skittles, and it's like, I think Mac Jones was like the $20 bill. You knew what you were going to get. It's, it's a safe $20 bill. It's not 100, you're not going to be able to buy too much with it, but you can buy something with it and it's safe. You know what it is. Trey Lance was the mystery box. And in my opinion, it was
Ended up
more
being Skittles.
It ended up being
Like
Skittles.
the iPad.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah.
Do you think when you look at where the 49ers are right now with Trey Lance, right? Because now they've drafted him and is looking more like Skittles than an iPad for the 49ers. But do you think that in maybe a different situation, the outcome could have been a little bit different? Like, let's say, hypothetically speaking, he was drafted to the Chicago Bears, like Justin
Mm-hmm.
Fields, where you can just play and no matter what, you're pretty much fine, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or let's say he went to the Jacksonville Jaguars, where Trevor Lawrence that same year had 10 touchdowns, 17 interceptions, and people are
Yeah.
like, "What?" But if that's Trey Lance, he has that type of year with them, you know, coming in the next year, it's like, well, he can only do better, et cetera. You might be a little bit more excited as opposed to the 49ers. You could not have a 10 touchdown, 17 interception season, even if you're Trevor Lawrence, or
Mm-hmm.
what would the conversation be like if Trevor Lawrence came to the Niners and had that? Now you might think the team is better, so he wouldn't go through quite
Right.
that drastic of a situation. But in general, it didn't look great. But having an opportunity to get better without a team thinking, "Hey, we can't have this because we need to go to a Super Bowl." So do you? That's a long way of me
Yeah.
saying, do you think a different team with lower expectations would have been a better situation for a mystery box like Trey Lance?
Well, yeah, 100%. I mean, 100%. There's no doubt about it. That's the situation a quarterback like that should go to. It's not fair to him to be expected to uh, have the skill set. When I say that, it's not the physical skill set. It's the all the other things that come along with the experience and the knowledge of playing at this level, that it takes to win. And I feel like this is one of the things that kind of bothers me is that, you know, people, when you talk about Jimmy, um, you can say what you want about him. I've never said that he's a top 10 quarterback, but at the same time, you still have to respect the fact that he was able to win a lot of games. And I don't care who you are and how good your team is and how good your coach is. If you're a terrible quarterback, you're still not going to be able to win games. And I think uh, we don't appreciate what he was able to do enough from that standpoint of, being a leader and, being a mid-level quarterback that was able to get the job done more often than not. Unfortunately, in the biggest games, he wasn't, but a lot of the times he was. And uh, I think people want to give too much credit to Shanahan and the roster when it's Jimmy, in that scenario. Don't appreciate the fact that he did a lot of the little things that it takes to win games. But from a Trey standpoint, um, I think, I think it was unfair for him to be drafted into this situation with the expectation to win now. There's no doubt about it. And the, when I look at Trey, it's like, I think he's somebody, because of his lack of experience, like, you're going to need 3 years of playing time just to figure out if he has the potential to be great in this league. Um, I think, uh, because he's got to go through the ups and downs and and the learning, and I mean, defenses are going to fool him his first time seeing it. And it's like, I could go read a book on how to hit a golf ball, until you go out there and actually hit a golf ball. Like, I can know everything there is about hitting a golf ball. It doesn't matter until you go actually do it. And there's no way around it. And so, at least if he was with the Bears, I still think he's going to have the same issues, though, which, to me is, he's not as good of a runner as we had hoped, as the Niners had hoped. And I don't really blame the Niners for that. I think it's hard to see in 1 year of film at the SCS level how good of a runner someone truly is, because of the competition that you're playing against. It's just hard to
It's
see.
not the SEC, right?
Right, exactly. And not to mention, when you throw on the fact that he's basically playing at the Alabama of the FCS, where his team is significantly better than the team that they're playing against, where he's got holes opening up that are huge, that, and he's playing against this subpar competition. I'm not saying that no one can be good playing at that level. We know that that's not the case. I'm just saying that it's hard to truly see how good he is when you're watching him versus that competition, and you only have a year because of COVID. And so, it was a very high risk. I think it turned out that he wasn't as good of a runner as we had hoped. At least he's not on the Lamar Jackson Fields type of level when it comes to running. And if you're not on that level, it puts even more emphasis on your passing game, and you got to be on time, accurate, and know where you're going with the football in order to be successful when you don't have an elite run game to bail you out sometimes. And I think when the Niners drafted him, they thought, yeah, the passing game is probably going to take some time, but we can get by with his run game. And that's what they tried. Whenever we saw Trey Lance, that's kind of what they were trying to do. They were trying to really get by on his run game while his passing game kind of, where they would kind of mix it in and try to scheme stuff open and make it easy as possible for him, while they really leaned on his running ability. And unfortunately, he just kind of lacked that electric running ability that we see from some of the best in the game. And so in my opinion, in order for him to be one of the top quarterbacks in the league, he's got to do it a lot more from being able to throw from the pocket and be accurate and on time and make reads in a split second. And that's where I see the problems with Trey and these people that are like, well, he's only had 4 games, and I think I heard one of your shows, lately where you're like, he didn't look terrible in those 4 games. I'm not going to say like he was amazing, but he didn't look terrible. So I don't know, what they see. The way I think about Kyle Shanahan and what he looks for is, I picture Kyle Shanahan after a game watching like the all 22, and he's going through and pretty much almost every single play that doesn't work, I bet he can pinpoint why it didn't work. And in his head, he's thinking, if this guy just didn't miss that block, or this receiver ran the right route, or the quarterback, which I think is most common, if the quarterback made the right decision based on what the defense was showing, this play would have worked. And I think Shanahan, the way that he sees it is my offense is going to work. My offense will work as long as it's run the way it's supposed to be run, and the people are doing their jobs the way it's supposed to be done. My offense is going to work. And so then you look at like a quarterback like Jimmy, and in terms of his reads and that sort of thing, I think Jimmy was probably like maybe, let's say 60% of the time, he's making decisions that Kyle Shanahan liked, and hitting the guy he should hit in that play. Again, not great, but not terrible. I think you look at someone like Brock. I think that's why Shanahan really loves Brock. I think he's probably, on our scale, is probably more like an 80% guy, where he sees what Shanahan sees a lot of the time. And same thing with probably like Cousins. That's why he liked Cousins a lot, because he could see the field like Shanahan saw the field. My guess as to why they're so low on Trey, despite only the 4 games, is because in practice over the last 2 years and being around him, it's been clear that Trey is probably more like a 30% guy, where he's having trouble knowing where to go with the ball, especially when you have to make that decision in a split second. And
we're talking about on more of a consistent basis.
Again, all these other guys I named. Exactly. And I think that scares Shanahan, because he's like, he knows that if you get one of these 80% guys that know where to go with the ball 80% of the time, and they're accurate and throw it on time, that his offense is probably going to be pretty damn good. And so I think that's what he's more concerned about, as opposed to, can this guy throw the ball 60 yards down the field, which, I think he likes, but on the scale of what's important to him, it's more, does this guy know where to go with the football every single play? That's what he cares about the most. And then it's, can he accurately get it there? And if you have those two things, that's going to be the quarterback Shanahan wants.
All right. So we have some kind of examples of what he likes and maybe some of the things he doesn't, especially if you're not doing it exactly how he wants, right? So there are narratives out there about Kyle Shanahan and how controlling he can be. We've heard RG3 say that, right? But let's go back a little bit further than RG3. You go back to the Houston Texans days when he finally took over and was officially an offensive coordinator there. Matt Schaub, he had him as a quarterback, played well, had some good years, right? Fast forward to the Washington days. First, he has Donovan McNabb. And Donovan McNabb, not the most efficient quarterback. And we know back in those days, kind of the 2000s, early 2010s, you didn't see as high of efficiency rates as we see now, maybe by a few quarterbacks, like, if you're, I don't know, Steve Young or something, but outside of that, the guys weren't throwing for 66, 67, 70% passing. It was closer to 60%, 61, 62, 63. McNabb was more of a 60% passer if you look at it on paper, 61, 62 in that range. Well, he was coming off of a year where he went 10-4 as a starter for Philadelphia Eagles, went to the Pro Bowl, and there was Michael Vick there at that time. So they're like, all right, we're kind of done with with McNabb. We're going to go to Mike Vick. McNabb, you are now a free agent after being 10-4 and going to a Pro Bowl. So he signs with Washington. He gets there, and all of a sudden, there's this big disconnect between him and Kyle Shanahan. You got this young offensive coordinator telling him, hey, I need it done like this. You need to be doing these things. And McNabb is like, well, why don't we try this, and this? And he's probably thinking about, hey, these are the things that have worked for me throughout my career. Kyle is like, well, I don't care about your career. Care about what's going to make this offense go the way I envision it in my head, and the way that you play, it's not that. You're not going to run it the way. So ultimately, he kind of benched Donovan McNabb. He didn't even start for that entire season. Fast forward, what they do, they draft RG3. It's been very well documented. RG3 was not either one of the Shanahan's choice. That was Dan Snyder's choice, right? He's like, hey, I want RG3. That's who we're taking. When Kyle Shanahan wanted Kirk Cousins, and Mike Shanahan wanted Russell Wilson. So he wanted to draft Russell Wilson in the second, and then Kyle wanted to draft Kirk whenever he could. When Kirk was there in the fourth, it's like, oh yeah, take my guy. But now you're in a situation where, we got to coach this guy, RG3, as electric as he was, dynamic as he was. He can throw. He did all these things. He was great at Baylor. Heisman Trophy Award, got like all those things. But it's like, you're not my type of quarterback, so I don't want you. So what did he do? He created this makeshift offense that doesn't have to do a whole lot with what he truly wants to do. Hey, you know what? We're going to go all the way this way, and we're going to develop this type of offense and just throw you in there. And he won Rookie of the Year. But then he got hurt, had the knee injuries, and he was like, hey, can we change a little bit of how I'm playing? I want, this longevity. And Kyle was just like, no. And he never was going to change it because he didn't like him. So now we're kind of seeing how, if you're not a very specific type of quarterback, he kind of pushes back on and is quick to really try to move on. So now let's fast forward a little bit. 2019, Jimmy Garoppolo is coming off of a torn ACL. Week 1, did not play well against Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 49ers won. Shout out to Richard Sherman, Keller Witherspoon, both had pick sixes. Mike Silver goes on national television and says, hey, if it continues to get kind of weird with Jimmy Garoppolo, I could see them going to Nick Mullins because he loves Nick Mullins. And I think now we hear that, and it sounds crazy because we know what Nick Mullins ultimately is, a guy who's borderline an NFL player. But he was more than that with Kyle Shanahan. He's a guy who completed 65% of his passes, threw for the most yards, the third most yards in his first 16 starts in NFL history. So let's say hypothetically speaking, if he just played 16 straight games, that would be the third most yards in a 16 game starting span than anybody in NFL history, right? So by all accounts, man, at least yardage, he's starting to get it. And then you look at certain things, and where I'm going with this is because I didn't compare, and that's how they took it. Oh, you're saying that Nick Mullins is the same as Brock Purdy. I'm not saying that.
Mm,
I'm drawing parallels to the style of quarterbacks they are and how Kyle Shanahan leans towards that guy more than someone who might have more upside or more arm talent or whatever it is.
mm,
And they're like, well, Nick Mullins sucks. He couldn't win. Well, yeah, of course he couldn't win because in 2020, they lost damn near their whole team. Barely had Debo, barely had George Kittle, lost Nick Bosa, didn't have a defense. Early on, when CJ Beathard and Nick Mullins took over, I mean, there was a season where they had 5 takeaways over the entire season. 5. They had like 20 plus. They led the NFL in interceptions last year with over 20 interceptions and had a year where they have 5 total takeaways. So you have to factor in all those things. And when you add the guys that Nick Mullins and Beathard were missing, and guys they added, like a Christian McCaffrey, and how that makes a difference with everybody else, I could see how a guy with that type of ability plays well, throws the ball well, does things that Kyle Shanahan likes. Because I think he would have
mm,
liked Nick Mullins in that type of situation. So I don't say that to belittle Brock Purdy and what he did. He was amazing. But I do say
mm,
it's very clear that he wants a guy that is going to do exactly what he says, how he wants him to do it, and be more closer to that 80% that you speak of, as opposed to a 30%, a guy that might have to do things a little bit more off script. And I've been
exactly.
of saying that I did not think that Kyle Shanahan would like uh, Patrick Mahomes. And we see what Patrick Mahomes is now, and everybody's like, man, you're crazy. Man, if anybody goes back and watch Patrick Mahomes, like from when he first started playing, the dude would make his first read, and if he doesn't like it, he move around. Well, Kyle would
Mm,
hate that, you know?
mm,
So I think he would kind of struggle to get on the same page with him because of his freelancing mindset that he has. And he likes more guys like a Nick Mullins and a Brock Purdy. And I think that's what,
mm,
and that's not to say, because I already know, Crock did nothing like Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy moves better than Nick Mullins, 100%.
mm,
But overall, in the sense of how he plays or the way he sees the field, Kyle loves that about his quarterback. So
mm.
when it comes to Brock Purdy, and I know I said a handful just now, just some of your thoughts on how you feel like he fits with what Kyle Shanahan wants.
Yeah, well, I think you nailed it on the head. I mean, everything you said sounds right to me. Again, like we have to go back to the fact that Kyle Shanahan, the one thing that he's certain of is that if everybody does their job, his offense will put up points and over 30 points a game. And I think he's 100% confident in that. Of course, nobody's perfect. People make mistakes, you don't see things, that sort of thing comes up. And then there's times where the defense just wins and they make a better play and beat somebody, and that's going to happen as well. But overall, Kyle knows that if people run his offense and do their job, his offense is going to work. Like he can't rely on a quarterback scrambling around and coming up with something off script. He can't rely on that. What he feels comfortable with and relying on is his offense, the way it's drawn up, and him setting up his plays. Like we just heard Kittle talk about how he'll literally set up plays in the first quarter for things that he wants to do in the third or fourth quarter. And it only works if you do it the way that he wants it done and you're setting up these plays the way that they're supposed to. And so, I kind of picture it as like, you have your two different quarterbacks, and you have those quarterbacks that are more, I guess, for lack of a better word, like the game manager type that are going to, stay within the offense and run the plays that how they were designed and that sort of thing. I think of like Alex Smith. It was like a kind of a classic example of this, where he's not going to be taking a ton of risk and going off script and that sort of thing. He's going to stay within the confines of the offense. And, to me, he was kind of on one extreme of that. Then you have your guys that are like more your backyard type of quarterbacks that are, super athletic. Usually they, when things kind of break down or something's not there, they just completely rely on their athleticism to try to create. And, to me, Mahomes is like a perfect combination of both of those two. Like he could do either or, which makes him awesome. And so I kind of think that Shanahan would be able to tolerate it because, he's capable of running Shanahan's offense, but also when it breaks down, can create and do his own thing. Justin Fields, on the other hand, to me, he kind of only has that second backyard type of quarterback, which I think would drive Kyle Shanahan nuts. And I think that's why, one of the reasons why he didn't take him, because, he's when things break down, he's going to just fully rely on his athleticism and try to create. And, Kyle Shanahan would basically be there like, if you hung in the pocket one more second, this guy was open. You were, not making the right read. And, he would just be pissed off. And I think, and that's where I said where the frustration, I believe, with Jimmy was that, he was an average processor. And, and 60% of the time, he was okay, but he was also leaving deep passes off, he wasn't taking the deep passes that were there. And then he's throwing boneheaded passes once or twice a game that, are getting picked off and that sort of thing. And so, but when you look at Purdy, for the 8 games that we've seen him, this is by far, at least on the 49ers, I've seen anybody process on the field and, steps up to the line and truly knows where, the defense is going to be, when his guy's going to be open. And the crazy thing to me is like with Purdy's arm strength, how good of a processor he is. It's even it's increased because, I always said like Jimmy, I don't know how accurate he was, but his quick release would make up for a lot of, maybe slow processing where he's still able to get balls there because he has a extremely quick release. And he had a pretty good arm, not a lead or anything, but he could make some throws off script and, different arm angles and that sort of thing. Purdy, I think has a worse arm than Jimmy, but his ball, like, the foresight that you have to get the ball where it needs to be on time is increased because he has a weaker arm and he's still able to do it. And, it wasn't long, like maybe 2 games in, 3 games in, where you start hearing Kyle Shanahan talking about how his entire playbook is open because he has a guy now that he knows sees the field like he sees it and is going to stay within the offense. And when it's there, it's going to be hit more times than not. And I just don't think that he gets that same feeling with Trey. I think with Trey, you see him going the route that he did with the other quarterbacks you mentioned, which is, hey, we're going to have to run this. We're going to have to run the ball. We're going to try to sit on it. We're going to try to keep possession and rely on our defense, to win games. And that's the way that we're going to win. It's probably going to be ugly. We're going to win games 17-14. And, he's going to run 13 times a game. And then we're going to scheme open passes for him that where he doesn't have to actually make the reads. Like, this is where you're going with the ball. And I think that's kind of, and then when you look at Nick Mullins, I think this has contributed to the fact that, you have people saying that he has no trade value. Now, Trey, that is, you have no trade value because quarterbacks don't usually get better when they leave Kyle Shanahan's offense. They typically get worse, and they're typically worse before they get to Kyle. And so they're usually the best with Kyle. And, I think a lot of people kind of look at that and say, man, you saw how good Nick Mullins was with Kyle. Why is Trey putting up these numbers with Kyle Shanahan and that team, you would expect it to look more like Brock when he gets in the game and those types of numbers. It's scary that his numbers are what they are, even with Kyle Shanahan and with this roster, when even Nick Mullins looked great in this offense. And so, these are all
And real quick, I
things.
did want to, because there was someone right here. He says Nick Mullins was not like Brock. He was always trying to make plays that were not there. Mullins was trash. My pushback on that would be Mullins was not playing with. I mean, like, who is he playing with? Like Kendrick Bourne,
Right.
was like the most consistent receiver that Mullins had to play with. Again, the defense, the pressure that puts on a Nick Mullins, right? He did not play with the defense that 49ers had last year. Number one defense in the NFL. Team that
Mm-hmm.
they doubled their takeaways, the second half of the season, right? And I'm not saying that's the only reason why Purdy was good. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
saying how, yeah, we can judge Nick Mullins based on, you know, 2020 and everybody hurt. Debo hurt, Kittle hurt, no CMC. You even lost
Yeah.
Trent Williams for some games, right? No Nick Bosa on the defense, right? And it's like, well, yeah, judge him because he tried to do too much. Well, of course, how is he going to? He doesn't have the playmakers available outside of Ayuk, who Kyle Shanahan didn't even want to play and has admitted that. Like, I didn't even want to play Ayuk, but everybody else was hurt. So
Mm-hmm.
we can dog Nick Mullins for the situation, but ultimately, from a statistical standpoint, you could see where he was kind of on the right path, but at the wrong time with the
Yeah.
49ers.
To Judge's point, though, I mean, if you look at his numbers, I want to say 2000. I forget what year. I think he played in 2018 and 20. He got maybe 8 games in each of those years. 2018, I think he was better, but both of those years he threw almost as many picks as touchdowns, or I want to say at least one of the years, I think he had in 8 games, he had maybe
2020 or 12 and 12.
12 and 12. And so, I think that, he definitely started off hot and did a lot of good things. Ultimately, there were issues there, though, as well, where he had a little bit of the Jimmy risk reward problem.
But hold
Um,
on, Flav.
yeah,
How much more difficult is it when you have to force a ball to Kendrick Bourne as opposed to being able to
right.
check down to Christian McCaffrey?
I look. I totally get that point. And I was gonna say too, though. I want to make it clear though, like the teams that Nick Mullins had to play with are a lot worse than even like Trey's team that he had versus the Bears that didn't have like Kittle and whoever and McCaffrey. Like, I think those teams that Mullins were on, the whole team was injured. Like you said, I think his best receiver was who was his best receiver
It was Brandon
when
Ayuk who Kyle Shanahan did not want to play.
yeah, and well, he was like that was 2020. Was he like a rookie that year or something? I can't remember,
Yeah.
but yeah, to your point, his teams were were bad, and it would have been interesting to see him play with a better roster for sure, um, and then from a winning game standpoint, I think you also look at obviously the defense. My thing with the defense, though, is that a lot of times when you have a bad defense, it means your play caller has to be more aggressive because you know that you're going to have to score more points. And so Kyle Shanahan might be dialing up more aggressive plays. You get into more games where you're not playing to control time of possession, leaning on your defense, which Kyle Shanahan loves to do. That's how, when we're rolling well and getting, to the NFC championship and Super Bowl, he's controlling the time of possession, relying on his run game, throwing when he has to, sort of thing, and leaning on his defense. But I think in those years when people were injured and that sort of thing, I bet he was more aggressive from the outset because he knew, hey, instead of having to score 23 points to win this game, we got to put up a lot more points. And so in a weird way, I think Mullins would be a benefited from statistically from not having as good of a defense. But yeah, I think it's interesting to see, and to me, it's it's a testament to Kyle Shanahan, because we haven't been able to see Nick Mullins do anything like that since he left. That's for sure.
Right. And I'm not, and I want to make this very clear. I'm for the people here, because they'll come in later in the comments and then they'll say things that I don't mean. I'm not
Mhm.
saying that Nick Mullins would be as good as Brock Purdy. I'm saying
Mhm.
that clearly Kyle likes a certain type of quarterback, and because of
Yeah.
the type of quarterback Mullins was, he was able to do certain things. And although we're not looking at him as being this good quarterback, I can only imagine him in a more in a better situation for him to not have as much pressure, but still be the quarterback that he is, that Kyle likes, and what that might
Right.
look like in 2022. So,
Right.
real quick, we got some super chats, and then I am going to get to, we got some people that want to come on. For the people that are coming in, and I see y'all, and we're going to have to be quick because I got some chicken in the oven right now. But for the people that are coming on, Flav has not been disrespectful to anyone. So I just hope that y'all come on and give him the same respect that he's given everybody in the chats. Even though I've seen the chat, I see the comments, I see people, some of the things that they're saying. He's been nothing but a stand-up guy throughout this whole time and just giving his perspective. So I am going to start bringing guys on. Be respectful, and we got to be quick because I probably got about 5 more minutes with this chicken. All right.
All
So
right.
real quick, we did have a super chat here. My guy No Flav says, this guy doesn't know football. Ask him a football question, Croc. Has he ever played? Trey is slow processor. Sounds like racial tones. I'll say this. I don't think you have to play football to understand or know football. I think that people learn football in many different ways. And I think, different experiences of watching it throughout the years, whether you got to watch Joe Montana and Steve Young and that whole thing, maybe you got to watch Steve Young when he was trash with Tampa Bay and understanding what that situation was, as opposed to duking it out and ultimately taking over for the 49ers as starting quarterback, or, Colin Kaepernick and what that looked like. And then Jimmy Garoppolo and what that looked like, and such, so on and so on. I think for me, the only thing that helps me from as far as being a player, and when we're talking about quarterbacks, is 2013. I was there with Geno Smith and Mark Sanchez, and I saw what Geno Smith was, and I saw maybe how immature he was and some of the things that he was doing, or flying people in, maybe not as focused. Me and him playing Madden, and he pulled out some Ciroc or whatever, right? And in the middle of the daytime, and then the Geno Smith now, and the growth and the understanding, and maybe having to go see a backup and stuff like that. So just my first hand experience seeing Geno then, and him being a 50% passer barely, or whatever he was, not good, to the person that he is now, and kind of from the outside looking in what has gone into that,
Yeah.
I can revert back to like, man, well, this is what he was. So let's say a Trey Lance and some of the issues he's having right now, and if 5 years from now all of a sudden Trey Lance is this terrific quarterback because it clicks, I could say, well, yeah, and we can point to the things as to what he maybe needed to be good, but didn't match the 49ers timeline. Ultimately gain those things from being a backup, being behind somebody that's good, and then revitalizing his career. We have seen that. So that's where maybe playing again has more of a
Yeah. Well, 100%. And just to respond, well, one, I appreciate that guy having his whole identity based off of my persona.
yes.
But I did play football through high school. And I would never, someone like Croc has probably forgotten more football than I'll ever know. So I don't hold myself out to be some ultimate expert of all things football, but I feel like, I've also tend to be right when it comes to the 49ers and this situation. And so, it's ultimately, like I said, I look with my eyes and I see what I think is going on. And then I look for confirmation of that. And to me, the way that the organization has treated Trey Lance through these last 3 years, and how they continue to treat him by making him compete with Darnold for the QB2 and acting like they kind of want to try to trade him. You do not do that to someone that you have full confidence is going to be a great player. You just don't act like that. They have basically all jumped on the Purdy train, and there's a reason to that. And in my opinion, it's because either from an experience or just a lack of knowledge standpoint that takes years, as well as a lack of accuracy and timing and touch. Trey is not there yet. He's just not at that level yet. And you look at even Mullins. Mullins had a very successful college career and had a way more experience than Lance. And it just takes time. And Lance, unfortunately, isn't there yet. But thank you.
All right, right here we got my guy Elon, and he says, Purdy, our offense scored more points to first force opponents to be more aggressive. Nick Mullins rarely played good against a good team. Most times it's garbage time. And I would say, again, maybe Mullins was always going to be trash. You could look at him and see that there were some limitations in his game, but it's really tough to judge him on the same level as a Trey Lance or Brock Purdy in the sense of his team was terrible that he was playing on. Like, that's hard to play. And I've played on, again, it goes back to, my personal experience. I've been on some bad teams. It is hard, especially for a quarterback, to be good in that type of situation. It just is. Trevor Lawrence, I don't think there's any coincidence how year one, it was a tumultuous situation with his head coach. The team wasn't as good, whatever. He was bad. Fast forward to year two, they got a good head coach in, and Peterson. They added 3 receivers in free agency, and all of a sudden it's like, wow, he's a top 8 quarterback in the NFL, right? Like, it just flipped. He just got a better situation, went through his ups and downs. So it's really hard to judge guys when their situation is just really so trash. And then here we go. Last one, we got Sean. He said, I don't think Kyle deserves to win a Super Bowl, not until he fixes the my way think tank. If he wins, it will negatively reinforce his BS. He has to get out of his own way. He seems unwilling to do so. And a quarterback trainer in my comments popped in and said for Kyle Shanahan, because he walks into a room and feels like he's the smartest person in the room. And I think, let's say, we always use kind of Andy Reid. I bet if Andy Reid walked into a room, he wouldn't try to make you feel like he's the smartest person in the room. You just know he was. I remember being there and, playing experience, being there firsthand with Rex Ryan. And it was clear Rex Ryan was the smartest motherfucker in that room. But he would, get suggestions from the players, take their advice. All right, Calvin Pace, this is what you want to do. If it doesn't work, we ain't doing it again. But we'll do these things. Like, he didn't come off as like, hey, I'm the smartest person in this room. But you just knew just how he talked about and spoke about football, like he was the smartest person in the room.
Have you watched Ted Lasso at all?
I've watched 2 seasons, I believe.
Okay, I don't know if but for those who have it, he's kind of got like the wonderkind thing, the little coach that he's like the assistant coach that ends up winning a game, and everyone says he's like the wonder kid or whatever. I think people who watch the show kind of know what I'm talking about. He likes the smell of his own farts a little bit, like he thinks he's the best, but I mean, at the same time too, he's when it comes to being like an offensive coordinator, the guy's pretty insane, man. He's pretty awesome. Yes. And his teams play tough, I think, and his players like him. And so I think we just get the outside media kind of perspective that, I think I don't know. It's just hard. It's hard to know, but to me, he's a top 5 quarterback or coach in the league. And I'm not getting rid of that unless you got somebody 100% better lined up that's ready to replace him. So, that's sort of my thoughts on him.
We will have you elaborate. I'm running out of time. I already know my chicken about to make me burn my chicken. All right, real quick, about to bring some people on. I see Shaz right here. He says, so 3 years in since Trey was drafted, he hasn't played and still no chip. Purdy better ball. I'm holding him to a Super Bowl or bust standards. See, I think that's tough too, because even with Purdy coming in, we could think like, man, he's terrific, he's this and that, but it's just really tough to just win the Super Bowl. But I get what they're saying, where it's like, hey, Kyle, this is what you're going with the guys that you want, so you better get these type of results. And I think
Yeah.
that's
And everybody's holding them to that standard. I mean, that was Jimmy's standard the whole time, and that is what it is. So I mean, that's fair if that's what you want to hold them to. But the question is, do we have somebody better on the team right now? And yeah, we should always be looking for an upgrade. But just because we don't have an upgrade available doesn't mean we should throw away our Super Bowl chances, even if they're slim right now. We shouldn't throw them away just because our quarterback isn't a top 5 quarterback in the league. So,
all right. Awesome. On now we got my guy Sersky. Sersky, how you doing, bro?
What up, Crock? What's going on, man?
Oh man, just
I'm
chilling.
disappointed. I'm
Hope you don't mind
disappointed
my
in you, Crock. I'm disappointed in you, bro.
Why are you disappointed?
Because I mean, this is a waste of time of having him on here. But no offense to you, but it's just a waste of time because he was
oh
all
no,
over the
no
place
offense
and
taken.
wasn't making any sense. Because I mean, he literally sat up there and said, "Well, in this offense, if you have a good roster, all the quarterback has to do is to be serviceable and do what Kyle tells you what to do." Okay, how long have we been doing that? We've been doing that with Jimmy. Where did that get us? No shit. And now people is coming. Now people, you got people like him and other people coming in and say, "Well, Purdy is the future off of 8 games." And then on top of that, people want to put a label on Trey and call him a bust after 4 games. The reason why Trey Lance is in the situation that he's in right now was because number one, the 49ers should have got rid of Jimmy when they drafted Trey. And number two, we can't really see what Trey can do because Trey has been hurt. Trey is not a bust because he cannot perform on the field. Trey is not a bust at all. The only reason that people are having certain uncertainties on Trey is because he's been injured and really no one haven't even seen him play. I mean, the type of football that Kyle Shanahan is doing is not gonna. Brock Purdy can't beat no Mahomes. Brock Purdy can't beat no Josh Allen. I'm sorry, he just can't. Now Brock Purdy is a good quarterback, but like he just said, a quarterback that can work within the system and do what Kyle said, that's not gonna that we've done that already. That's not gonna win us a ship. You need a quarterback to come in there that do what Kyle said to do, but do more. Utilize his legs on short down situations like 31, 32, things like that. Or use his big arm to throw downfield. This offense been missing that. Brock Purdy can't throw. Brock Purdy has a noodle arm. He cannot throw the ball downfield. And that's something that we've been missing for years. We've been missing that with Jimmy. We've been missing that with Nick Mullins and Beathard, whoever the quarterback. Those two guys are ass anyway. They can't play no
you.
ball.
Sersky, I got a
So
question for you.
yeah,
Wh-
what's up?
What do you like about Brock Purdy's game?
What I like about his game, he does get the ball out efficiently. He does read the offense. But when you see Brock Purdy play, Brock Purdy has been throwing a wide open guys. Like he's been throwing, he's been throwing the ball to wide open guys. I only seen a few throws where the one to IU that he dropped against the Seattle game in the playoffs. That's probably one of the few throws I've seen that Brock Purdy throwing tight in tight windows. But other than that, Brock Purdy, since he's been playing these past 8 games, Kyle been down in the plays where he's throwing the wide open guys. If Brock Purdy could come in this year and show that he can throw ball in tight windows, still keep the same level of play when a Debo is out, when a Ayuk is out, when a Kittle and Ayuk is out. Like when superstar players are out, can he still keep the same level of play? I'll give you one better, Croc. He's coming back October 21st and then turn around. If he's the starter, he's going to be there September 10th against the Steelers. Is he going to be mentally ready? Is that arm going to be ready? Is he going to keep the same level of play as he was? Because in case he forgot, defenses has been studying Purdy. It's going to be a whole different ball game. And Mike Tomlin is a great coach. He's a great defensive coach, and he knows how to use disadvantages as a strength. And he's going to test that arm. All the Steelers are going to do week one is stack that box and make Purdy beat it with his arm. And we got to see if Purdy can do that. So I mean, I just got to see it. But I'm not crowning Brock Purdy no future franchise, no future
Right.
nothing after no 8 games. We seen this movie before. We all got hyped up when Jimmy came in and won 5 games, and we thought he was the future. How that panned out. The man had 4 touchdowns and 7 INTs and 7 playoff games. That's not good. Brock Purdy has better playoff stats so far, but still, I'm not sold off no 8 games. Everybody want to say he's good and he's that after 8 games. I'm not convinced. If he's the starter next year I gotta see a whole 17 games see if he can keep that same level of play. But to me, I'm starting Trey because Trey has a higher ceiling. He has a bigger arm, bigger body. He's more intellectual than me than Brock, and he adds an element to the run game as well as the passing game. Like when quarterback, like if Trey Lance engages the ball to the running backs, the ends are going to respect that. They're not going to respect that with Purdy. They know McCaffrey's getting the ball. They know Elijah Mitchell's getting the ball. But when you got Trey Lance out there and he's engaging the football, the running backs, the ends gonna honor that, and that's gonna open lanes up for the running game for these running backs, and also that's gonna help Trey Lance when it comes to the passing game. That's something that we're missing. We're missing the deep ball. We're missing a quarterback that can be a threat in the running game. That's what we've been missing. It's added elements that is keeping us, that is holding us back, and us just continuing to just keep pocket only quarterbacks and not using them to be not using their athleticism like a Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. That is holding us back from winning the Super Bowl. Now you just mentioned the quarterbacks that Kyle Shanahan coached, which was Matt Schaub, Matt Ryan, all the other guys, like other quarterbacks that really wasn't that good when they was in the car, they was playing good. And even with Jimmy not that good of a playoff quarterback, but what, he won his games, right? So if it could work for them, and if it could work for Jimmy, and it worked for Purdy for those 8 games, why it can't work for Trey? So it don't make no sense, man. Like people just hating on Trey just because, man, it's just crazy, bro. And then people want to bring up Sam Darnold. Nobody was hyping up Sam Darnold when he wasn't with the Niners. So now when he's with the Niners, everybody hyping him up like Kyle Shanahan's going to resurrect him. Like, this is the most naive fan base I've ever been a part of. Y'all got to stop this shit. Like, for real, Croc. I don't mean to cuss on your show, but it's just stupid, man. It just people like him just say dumb stuff all over the place and know what he's talking about. It's just stupid. But all right, Croc.
I hear you, Sersky. Thanks for calling in. We got some more people ready. I'm gonna send him.
I don't think that a lot of these people. I don't
And
think.
go ahead, give your take on that. I'll pull up some super chats that came in as well.
I mean, again, I don't know how all these people were open for Brock, but they weren't for Trey, and it's always like this excuse and that excuse and that sort of thing. I think these unfortunately people that don't want to believe that Trey is just not that good, and ultimately when it comes down to it, you need to be able to sit in the pocket and pick a team apart from the pocket at some point or another. Running's great. All that, other elements and that sort of thing are great additions to a skill set. But when it comes down to it, to win the NFL, you have to be able to stand in the pocket and pick a team apart. And when Trey Lance can't even complete 55% of his passes in a Kyle Shanahan offense, that's very hard to do.
I will say, because we do say that, and we kind of, there are some things where I get it. Like overall, you would like to see a higher completion percentage, but I do think if you kind of just look at it, you could see a scenario where he completes higher than that. All right, so let's hypothetically speaking, Cardinals game completed around 50% of his passes or whatever it was, 52 was not great. Then he goes and plays the Houston Texans, and he completes 70% of his passes, right? So we see that, right? Then the next time we see him, it's the week 1 of preseason against the Green Bay Packers. He completes 4 out of 5 passes, which is 80% of his passes, including a 75-yard touchdown, right? Then the next time we see him against the Texans in the preseason, which was crazy as well. It was weird. I thought his tackles were trash, but he completed 7 out of 11 passes. Now he missed some passes, but he completed 7 out of 11. That's higher than 50%. Then the first game against Chicago, that's next time we see him. And then I'm just talking about completion percentage. We could talk about in the Packers game, there were some throws that weren't as accurate and stuff like that, right? That caused maybe he threw it to the flats and it was like it wasn't as accurate. It stopped the run and catch opportunity. But then you go week 1, and he missed that big throw to the tight end. But heading into the fourth quarter, he completed 8 out of 15 or 8 out of 14 passes. Heading into the fourth quarter, 8 out of 14, higher than 50%. It wasn't until the monsoon where balls started flying all over the place. He had some drops as well, and that contributes. So again, I get it that when you just look at stats, it says that. But if you take everything into consideration, what we've seen from him, it has been higher than 50%. But again, I think because it's such a small sample size, you have to like kind of look here, look, oh, well, look what happened in this game. Oh,
Right.
bench code in this game. And I think that kind of overall drops that down. But just from what I've seen, and that's kind of my pushback a lot of times, I don't see a quarterback that's not able to play. Like that's kind of and I've seen a guy
No. And
needs to grow,
yeah.
but all the things that you drafted him to be, even not so much as a super designed runner to be Lamar Jackson, but I think he has ran much better than he's given credit for. I mean, there were plays in the Chicago game where hey, third and 13, what did you do? Take off for a first down. You know what I'm saying? There's times when 4th and 10 against the Seattle Seahawks, 4th and 10. He drops back, pressure comes immediately. He steps up, slides up, shakes a guy, runs for a first down. So the legs and ability is definitely there. It's just he's just not Lamar, and he hasn't been great with design runs. So I see that. But in the sense of everything you kind
why
of
do you think
be able to utilize, I think he has shown the ability, but it's just been inconsistent, and it's been tough because it's such a small sample size.
Right. Well, and you go back to the 3 complete games that he started. The offense has averaged 13 points a game in those complete games that he started. So, why do you think that they're averaging such a low number?
In the sense of like what you
like? Why can't they score points?
I think he struggled to score. I mean, we saw him get stopped on the 1 yard line against Arizona. I saw Kyle Shanahan go for it, probably the most I've ever seen. You had Kyle Juszczyk during scoring position. Kyle Juszczyk gets under center and has a brain fart and does the quarterback sneak when he was supposed to pitch it to the quarterback with the receiver and Trent Williams pulling, which would have been an easy touchdown. If not, Trey Lance maybe run in for a touchdown. All right. So you have like that kind of took points off the board. Again, getting stopped on the 1 inch line, that took points off the board. The inability to kind of move the ball, right? And then you look at the Texans game, he actually did score points, 23 points or whatever it was. And then you look at the Bears game, I think it was very clear the elements had a big hand in it, including Deebo Samuel fumbling inside the 5. That takes points off the board. That is a potential touchdown, right? Now, he missed the touchdown throw, so that hurt him. But then even going to the next game against Seattle, where first drive, he goes down, they get points. Second drive, they're going down, they're about to get points, and then he gets hurt. So I think there are opportunities there, but again, it really comes down to I have to look at, well, this happened, and look at this and this, because I think he just hasn't played enough. But we can clearly look at maybe why. Like you asked why, and I'm saying, man, Arizona, they didn't convert enough on 4th down. And the other game, for the most part, is the Bears game, which turned into a monsoon, and they fumbled inside the 5, and he missed. I mean, like there's reasons as to why. I don't think he's not able to score points. Like I didn't get that vibe.
I see. I mean, to me, the accuracy was something that was talked about his first preseason, and it's carried through. And I think that that they bend over backwards to try to give him throws that are going to be there to complete. And even doing that, his numbers are what they are. But, people are kind of acting perplexed as to why they don't really like Trey Lance and why they aren't going to give him a chance and that sort of thing. And that's one of the reasons is he has accuracy issues. And so again, I mean, we could talk about it over and over, but to me, again, Kyle Shanahan, the ability to throw deep, there's film of Purdy throwing it 50 yards in the air. If you're going to, I don't know how often a quarterback throws it further than that in a game, but 95% of Kyle Shanahan's offense, especially, is going to be short and intermediate throws and being accurate and on time with those throws, and so that's what he's going to prioritize, not big playability. Kyle Shanahan wants to control the game from the offensive side of the ball and move the change, control time of possession. In order to do that, you need to be able to be accurate, short and intermediate throws, make the right reads, and that's why he likes Purdy as opposed to someone who might have a little bit more big play ability. But when you get into the red zone, the playbook is going to shrink because you don't all of a sudden now you don't have that deep threat. And now the defense doesn't have to worry about that. They can focus in on what's in front of them. And Trey Lance has got to be accurate and on time. And that's where he struggles. And to me, that's where a lot of the issues have been with regard to the offense scoring points in his starts. You're not going to beat a lot of teams scoring 13 points a game. So anyways.
I got you. Chris, your thoughts on this?
You gave him context, and he totally neglected that and went back to his own beliefs. So a little cognitive dissonance is kicking in with him. But I actually, goal line, they didn't really let Trey throw the ball that much in goal line situations. So I'm not sure where he's talking about Trey Lance accuracy being an issue when it comes to the goal line specifically. As you said many a times, we did actually score against the Texans, and we had a touchdown taken back. And then against the Cardinals, I mean, he tried to run in for a touchdown, and he got stopped. It was a great play by the defense. And against the Bears, I mean, Debo fumbled. So I'm not sure where he's getting the inaccuracies causing the issues to why we're not scoring in a goal line. I mean, before even Purdy came in, Jimmy Garoppolo on the offense actually struggled in the goal line. I also heard him talk about processing. Actually, Jimmy Garoppolo is a better processor than Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy, if you actually just look at a specific game, and if you actually watch the game and you see Purdy almost threw 4 interceptions. I mean, missed 4 touchdowns. He missed 4 touchdowns in that Seattle game. Anybody can go verify it. Go rewatch the game. He struggled. It was at least 2 to 3 interceptions dropped in that Seattle game. His processing, first off, this is a Brock Purdy fan talking here too. I've been in spaces.
Chris does love Brock Purdy. Like, he does love Brock Purdy. Like,
I want to know what
he loves.
I want to know why.
Hold on, Flave. Hold on, Flave.
All right.
And so it's been many a times where Brock Purdy's got a pass picked off, certain things, got called back. But I specifically, because I like to be specific on what I say, that Seattle game, his processing actually was not elite. I do believe Brock Purdy can make plays. Don't get it twisted. I argue it all the time, but I can't let you get away with saying all of this stuff that just doesn't kind of make sense. But I just want to bring this up to you because this is my main thing and why I came on here. You said that, I mean, I've seen your tweets. I've seen you on Jesse's show. I've seen you on other shows before, mainly Jesse shows though. And you talk about how you just don't think Trey Lance is the guy. I seen you in the comment section. You call him a bust, right? So
no,
and how you knew from one game that Brock Purdy was just this amazing quarterback. You knew it before Shanahan knew it. But I want to say this: you deem Trey Lance a bust after 4 games. I would like to bring up some stuff to you, okay? So, in 4 games, Peyton Manning, 3 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 55%. You would have called him a bust. Matthew Stafford, 3 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 56% of his passes. You would have called him a bust. Steve Young, 2 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, completed 50% of his passes. Guess what? You would have called him a bust. Josh Allen, 2 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, completed 53% of his passes. You would have called him a bust. All of them teams struggled to score. All of them completed 55% or under. So, Flav, I want to know. You see all of them.
Tell me where I've called him a bust. Tell me where I've called him a bust.
Hold on. I've seen you. First of all, on this show, you said he's not a very good quarterback. First off, second of all, I've seen you in Jesse comments call him a bust. I mean, there's many.
I've never called him a bust.
There's many people.
You will not find anything on me calling him a bust. First of all, because
well, first off, you said he's not a very good quarterback. I mean, that's pretty much implies he's a bust. Second,
100%. No, because I've always said in 3 years, we don't know what he's going to be in 3 years. Right now, I think we should know what he is. I think the Niners know exactly what he is. And unfortunately, that's not a very good quarterback. That's why he's competing for QB2 with Sam Darnold right now.
Okay, so I gave you the numbers on all those other quarterbacks. In 4 games, they're not a very good quarterback either.
No, I'm saying, I mean, how many of those quarterbacks were playing on a NFC championship roster?
Again, those well, Josh Allen was playing on a playoff team. So again, I want to know, those quarterbacks, were they not very good? They're not very good.
Josh Allen's team made the playoffs win.
They did make the playoffs the year prior to him.
Yeah.
Oh, the year prior to him.
Yeah. So again.
So it's like they made the playoffs and they drafted him and played, then they didn't make the playoffs.
But literally, the team Trey Lance played on, those teams went to the NFC Championship.
Hold on.
That year.
Flav, you've been quoted talking really crazy about Trey Lance. Again, I watch the shows. I seen you in the comment section. Okay, we're not going to argue that. I want to know, those quarterbacks that I just named, were they not good quarterbacks?
Oh, they were good quarterbacks, and but I think you also have to look at.
Don't you think your early what do you call it, analysis of Trey is kind of flawed, and it's kind of not fair to really go in on a quarterback who barely, I mean, it's really 3.5 games. Don't you think so? Because, man, I mean, I could only imagine what you would have said about Peyton Manning, because his was the worst. 3 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 55%. I mean, my God, my dude. You would have went in on Peyton Manning.
Through 4 games. Again, Peyton Manning's team was awful. His team was terrible.
Hey, bro.
And, he also he didn't have one of the best rosters in the league, and Kyle Shanahan trying to just draw up wide open guys for him and still made it look that difficult. That's been Trey.
Okay. So again, as I said, Josh Allen played on the team that made the playoffs the year before.
And who did they lose? Who did they lose in that offseason? Who did they lose?
Listen, we're not going into the super specifics, like, because you don't
right, because teams change year to year. Teams change year to year. Yeah, they do.
They pretty much still have the same players. They just lost. I mean, I think Tyrod Taylor became the backup, or he just was gone.
No, he was gone. He went to the Browns.
Okay, yeah. So at the end of the day, I'm just asking.
They also lost their entire offensive line pretty much. 3 out of 5 of them.
I'm just asking you a question.
And I'm answering you. Their team sucked.
No. Again, Josh Allen team didn't suck. So you're caught in the lie.
Yeah, they did.
They didn't. They made the playoffs the year before. You're getting sweaty, huh? Yeah, because you're getting caught up.
I'm not getting sweaty. I'm not getting sweaty. I just told you they lost 3 of 5 of their offensive linemen, and you're talking about the year before. I'm talking about this year. And the years that Trey Lance played, his teams were NFC championship caliber offenses, and he still can't complete more than 55% of his passes. So
did he have Christian McCaffrey? Did he have Christian McCaffrey? Did he have George Kittle? Did he have Trent Williams?
He had Debo and Ayuk, and
those play a huge part in the offense.
Trent Williams, what?
Those play a huge part in the offense. I mean,
Jimmy went to a Super Bowl without CMC.
Who?
And an NFC championship.
Who went to the Super Bowl?
Jimmy.
How did he go to the Super Bowl? What did he do?
Well, he did it without CMC.
No, what did he do?
He won games. I think he threw for 28 touchdowns and 13 interceptions that year.
Yeah, actually, that 2019, he had 22 total turnovers, which another thing I want to talk about, going into ups and downs. We went into a lot of ups and downs with Jimmy Garoppolo. He had 40
rating that year over 100.
I didn't cut you off. He had about 40 plus turnovers. He had about 40 plus turnovers playing with the 49ers. But back to what I'm saying. No, what did Jimmy do in the playoffs to get us to the Super Bowl? I mean, because you said he got us to the Super Bowl. So
I don't get. If Trey is so good, why do the Niners only want him to compete with Darnold for quarterback 2?
Hey, you backed yourself into this corner. You said
this is not a corner. You're not telling me anything.
Got to the Super Bowl. You said Jimmy got to the Super Bowl without Christian McCaffrey. I'm asking you, what did he do?
What do you mean? What did he do?
What did he do?
He touched the ball on offense more than any other player. He led the team.
Off, right? He handed the ball off, right?
He did what it took to win the game. What are you talking about?
What did he do to win the game? What did he do to win the Packers game?
This last year?
At home.
The Super Bowl year.
I can't. I honestly, I don't even remember.
But
I know that he played well enough to win.
Hey, Crock, I rest my case.
What? Because I don't remember what Jimmy did in a Green Bay game.
I remember
4 years ago.
He completed 6 of 8. He completed 6 of 8 passes. He had a running back that ran for over 230 yards and 4 touchdowns. And
Did he throw an interception to put the game out of reach? Did he throw an interception to put the game out of reach in the fourth quarter? Because that's what Trey did versus the Bears, the worst team in the NFL.
Refreshing your memory, Flav. You know, I'm refreshing.
Okay, you just told me 6 of 8
because you're not a big fan like that. It seems like. And then against the Vikings, he did have a touchdown drive, right? The very first drive. Then he tried to throw 3 interceptions. He threw one. What did Shanahan do? Ran the ball like 22 plus times, and he had another running back that went over 100.
How many did they win? What did they win that game by? What did they win that game by?
Well, the defense sacked Kirk Cousins 7 times,
so why are they going to throw the ball?
7 points. At the end of the
Why
day,
are they going to throw the ball?
You couldn't tell me what Jimmy G did to get to the Super Bowl. You said he got to the Super Bowl without Christian McCaffrey. I asked you why. There's reasons why.
He made the necessary plays. You just told me he was 6 for 8 in one of those games. He was almost perfect. He got 8 opportunities. He completed 6 of them.
Don't be a casual. The team around him was exceptional, elite, and then wait.
Right, but they didn't have CMC. They didn't have CMC.
When it was time for him to win a game, in the Super Bowl, he had the worst fourth quarter of all time. And I'm gonna leave you with this stat. I'm about to leave. I'm gonna leave you with this stat. The Niners are 3-0 when Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't throw a touchdown pass in the playoffs. I rest my.
How many game-winning drives has Trey led in his lifetime?
He clicked out.
The answer is 0. Trey's never led a game-winning drive in his entire life. And these people think he's going to come out there with his 50% completion rating and can't even beat the Bears, throwing picks in the fourth quarter to lose the game. And somehow he's going to know how to lead a game-winning drive versus a team with a winning record. It's just, maybe wait until he actually beats a team with a winning record. I don't care if he throws the ball 4 times or 0 times. Beat a team with a winning record and show that you can actually lead the team to a victory playing quarterback versus a good team instead of losing games that we should win with any roster versus the Bears, who have guys that we literally dropped beating us because you can't complete a pass to our team and are throwing it away to the other team, setting them up for a touchdown that puts the game out of reach. And then, come back and talk to me. So, that's the kind of the crazy things. Like, I've never seen a group of people support someone so loyally who has literally thrown for 250 yards 1 time in his entire life, never led a game-winning drive his entire life, never beaten a team with a winning record in the NFL, own team likes him enough to make him compete for QB2 with Sam Darnold. Show me who thinks that this guy is going to be great, that is involved with the team, who has more information than us, and maybe I'll change my opinion. But until I see some actual evidence that I should be changing my opinion, I'm going to stick with it because, his college tape is, to me, we don't know what it is in terms of the talent he was playing against. But when he's gotten to the NFL, it hasn't looked good.
I hear we got Teron. He says, he says you're getting cooked. I don't think I think you hold your own. You got people that are coming at you for just, your opinion, and they give their opinion. But I think you hold your own. I think it's good stuff right now. But we got Niner Guy coming on now. So Niner Guy, and this is not, it feels like one of those, the comedians that have like that roast thing where somebody stands up there, then everybody just throws jabs at them.
Hey,
but you hold your own.
But I do have a 1:30 haircut that I got to get to. So
I'm gonna make it quick.
All right.
Yeah. I don't want any smoke, man. I just coming on here. It sounds like everybody else had more coffee than me this morning. But hey, look, I'm a Niner fan. I like Brock and I like Lance, so it's no big deal to me. But I think for the most part, I think people aren't really looking at some key stuff here. And then I also say I wouldn't even believe all the stuff in the media. I think that's got a lot of people real hype right now. Trey's only have 4 games, 3.5, as the guy mentioned. The guy before made some really good points. 3.5 games, even Brock, as great as he played, there are going to be defenses that are going to be scheming up on him. And, while we've got a great roster and everything, and I think personally, I feel like Shanahan and Lynch, they're vested in Trey, right? So they're going to make sure that during training camp, Trey gets all the reps that he needs to ensure that they get a good assessment as to who he's going to be and how he's developed. Now, I will say this. If Brock misses one game and Trey gets in there and he balls, all I've ever seen Shanahan do, historically speaking, is play the hot hand. Like, that's what he does. So if he gets out there and he plays well and he wasn't the reason, he don't even necessarily need to be the reason why they won. But as long as they win, then he can add on to that the next game. And I think Trey's got that in him. He's got that dog in him.
Well, we don't know, and I think that's and I'm gonna get to the next caller. I appreciate you coming on. And I think what Flav is saying is we might feel that way about Lance, but he's saying there's nothing that really supports that outside of the one win against.
And
but there's nothing that supports that.
I just want to get this in too. If Trey proves me wrong, I will be the first to get up and say I was wrong, and apologize, and I'm not going to disappear or whatever all these people say that I will disappear. I will not. I will apologize and admit that I'm wrong. But I'm not going to sit here and rely on, cross my fingers and hope that this guy that is good that hasn't, seemingly impressed his own teammates and coaching staff. I mean, you would think he would do that in 2 years.
Flav, you said you have a haircut that you're about to go get. So I'm assuming that you have a hairline because you got somebody here says, there we go. He took his hat off. Flav has hair. So we can, we kind of did that, but Flav, I appreciate that good contribution. Do you got enough time for one more caller?
All right, one more. Gotta be quick.
All right, here we go. One more. Oh man, we've had some people patiently waiting. CJ, how you doing?
CJ, what's up, man?
What's up, Flav?
Hey, how you doing, man?
I've been going back and forth in the comments and stuff, and the thing that's real extreme to me is that anybody has a strong take one way or another about anybody. Brock Purdy's played 8 games. Trey Lance has played 4 games. And so I don't know. It's real all over the top to say, well, Brock is great and he's the new franchise guy, or Trey is a bust and he can't play, and or people just coming out saying, man, Trey is going to be great and put him out there and he's going to do all these fantastic things. I just don't know. I don't know that. I can't say anybody really knows that for sure. It's just too small of a sample size either way to even really know that. Now, the whole gauge of what the 49ers have been doing as far as having them compete with Sam Darnold and proclaiming Brock as the starter and all that other stuff, that just leads everybody to conjecture based on what that actually means. Mm-hmm. Now, it would be great for me as a fan that we gave up 3 potential franchise-changing players for Trey Lance with this trade, and none of us in this fan base has seen him play more than 4 games. He's going into season 3, and that's a frustrating thing, and that's a polarizing thing, and that's a fan dividing thing. Mm-hmm.
And typically, no matter who you are, when you're drafted 3rd overall, you just get more of an opportunity to just show that you stink, right? One way or the other.
I'm listening. Hold on. I'm listening.
So, and I know that's where you're kind of going with it. But typically, is like, number 3 overall pick. Let's say Jamarcus Russell. You got to see him for more than 4 games, or
we got to see. We got to confirm that he won't do it.
Right, so I think that's the unique situation with this, where I think Trey Lance would have more of that opportunity if Brock Purdy didn't come in and play as well as he did. So I think that kind of threw off this entire situation, because I got this little guy That was the last pick in the draft, but he played well. He earned the opportunity to be the starter week 1. And I'm not pushing back on that. I don't think most people are. But it just sucks for Lance where it's like, well, damn, how am I going to get my opportunity now? And I don't know if he will unless somebody gets hurt.
And
And
so
I agree with
that's
that. And and I was
that's
just gonna
like
say, yeah, this is why I appreciate CJ. Like I know CJ, and like he's very just like logical with everything and open minded. He's not just biased one way or the other. I think and everything he said is fair. And I think for me personally, I feel like there's a greater chance of Brock not being good this year than there is of Trey being good this year, frankly. Um, that's my opinion. I think again, I just don't see how Trey Lance is going to be good anytime soon when the way that he needs to be good is to get a ton of reps and I'm not talking about like 8 games. I'm talking about like 3 years of games to be good. And so that's where it's unrealistic to me to um, I think he's going to be gone by the time he might be good because they're not going to pay his contract with what he's
yeah,
making.
and
So
that's the problem that we really are overlooking is that we're in year 3. We don't know, they don't know. And then usually after year 3, you have to make a decision on this 5th year option. And right now, you just haven't seen enough to where you can really make a decision on that. And so now going through this lumps and stuff like that, what if the lumps, you come out on the other side of the lumps and it's still lumps, it's still real lumpy,
right,
it's still bumpy, and now you got to make this decision on a contract. And I think the timeline has gotten to the point where from an organizational standpoint, they're not sure if they want to continue to invest time into it because of these contractual um, things coming up. And I don't know if it's entirely just about whether or not is Trey a good player or a bad player at this point.
yeah, I agree. And I just um, I think personally, my feeling would be if you're going to go with Trey, they should blow up the team right now. Trade all these guys with value for picks, start rebuilding. So maybe in 3 years, you're coming back around again with a young team. And, by that time you got Trey ready to go. But from my standpoint personally, uh, you're going to miss this window in 3 years. So
We don't entirely know that it'll take that long. We just right now, from my standpoint, I just feel like we're stuck in a place of uncertainty,
Yeah, because
and
I too I don't
and
think
that's
I
and
don't think
that's
it'll
what
take
scares the
3 years.
franchise.
I think it would take 3 years. I'll say this for him to become the full like potential of or that he might be right. Like that might take quote unquote 3 years. But if I look at Jalen Hurts, I don't think Jalen Hurts is near where he potentially can be, right? And it's been 3 years. He had his rookie year, where he started 5 games or whatever. Ultimately, got benched for Nate Sudfeld. Year 2, he played. Year 3, he played, and they're still like, all right, we want to develop this aspect of his game. But even within doing that, they were able to go to the playoffs multiple times and the Super Bowl. So I'm not saying that would be Trey Lance's timeline, but I can see a scenario where he's still not 100% where we want or need him to be, but he can be good enough to where, hey, we're winning games with this because, well, I do these things very well, even though there's still other parts that of my game that I'm still learning. And that might be something where you see the best version of him year 6, year 7, year 8. And I think that would actually align with a lot of quarterbacks' timelines, to be honest.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Croc, man, I got to run. I'm
Yeah.
already 10 minutes late. I'm sorry, but CJ, thanks, man. And Croc, dude, thank you so much for having me on. If you want to have another call-in show and let all these people
Yeah.
talk shit to me, I'm cool with it, man. Just hit
Hopefully it
me up.
doesn't go. Hopefully it doesn't go that way. Hopefully the next time you call in, it goes in your favor, and in the sense
Oh,
of
I'm good with
Brock
it, man.
Purdy's
I love it.
playing very well, and you come on here and you can pound your chest and you tell
Oh
everybody.
man, dude. Either way, man, I love it, man. So
I just wanted to
appreciate
close
it.
out with one thing. The fan base, everybody in this chat, because somebody has a different opinion than you, does not mean that person is a racist or a clown. I would love it if we can have these discussions, sticking to the point of just talking about football and get out of these places of personal insults towards people. If we could just please do that. Thanks.
Very well said, CJ.
Thanks,
Appreciate you
CJ.
coming on as well. Thanks, Flav. Thanks,
All right,
CJ.
man. Later, guys.
All right. Now, we do got one more person that's been waiting for a long time. And I got to bring him on, and we'll just hear his thoughts on this conversation. I feel like he's the voice of reason for this show. Then I'll get to the super chats. I see all the super chats. I'm like, damn, I need to bring on more controversial people, man. This is most super chats I done gotten on, know how long. All right, so I see all the super chats. We definitely gonna get to those. I appreciate all of y'all and everybody that's in here right now. But Gammon, my chicken is fine. I have my wife taken out the oven, so no chickens were harmed in the making of this video. I don't know if what I was trying to do with bring him on necessarily worked. Ultimately, I have my opinion and how I see the game, how I see players, how I see player development. Sometimes it might differ from other people. How I, see Nick Mullins and Brock Purdy and stuff, right? That might differ. So I do like to bring on someone that has a strongly different opinion on similar topics. And I thought it would be good for him to kind of get that out. Not on Twitter, because I know his persona on Twitter.
Yeah.
But it started to go a little south at the end. But overall, man, what were your thoughts on it?
It would have been nice to see that exact same persona that we see on Twitter, or that we see him utilize on the keyboard here live. I think that was a big draw. Flav, if you're listening, this is all constructive criticism, especially coming from somebody who is absolutely timid and paranoid and doesn't like doing this. I actually do this for personal and professional growth. And I want to give a big shout out to Mrs. Crocker, because you've been allowing this man on here for over an hour and a half. I know there are things going on in the household. You're probably going like, when is this man going to come out of that computer room? I hate that thing when it burned down.
Man, well, I got another podcast I'm about to get on in 15 minutes.
15 minutes.
And then I have Locked On 49ers at 4 Pacific, 6 my time. So I'm going to be in here for a little while. I just want to eat my chicken. But yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the only other thing too, and this is like constructive criticism, because what I usually do is I'm really, really hard on myself after we get off here and we're done. The people may not know this, but I'll probably watch this a good 10 to 15 times and pick apart everything that I did wrong. And I just tear myself down. So when I misspell people's names, or I get facts wrong, or you ever done this where you say like a word or someone's name and you were thinking of a different name, but somehow a wrong name? I don't know what that is, but that only happens when the light and the camera is in your face, like staring in there directly.
100%.
But
I said, one time, and somebody killed me on Twitter, and I read the comments, and I'm like, it was an honest mistake.
Right.
And I said Talanoa Hufanga, really within 2 sentences. I said, USC, Talanoa Hufanga, blah, blah. But when, he's at UCLA, he did this. So I said he went to USC. And then I accidentally said that I accidentally said UCLA. I don't know why. Right. Oh, I got killed on Twitter for that.
I'm sure you
They
did.
didn't tag me, but they were just like, man, these people are supposed to know what they talk about. And they said that Talanoa Hufanga went to UCLA. And I'm like, and then I saw like the comments, and they're like, because I'm like, oh, I know I didn't say that. I know he went to USC.
Right.
And I'm reading the comments, and they were like, well, it wasn't Peacock, but it was on Locked On. He's supposed to know, blah, blah. And I'm like, it was me. So I went back and listened, and it was like, dude, you clearly missed the part where I said USC. Then I accidentally, it was an honest mistake. And I think those things happen. So when going live, when you don't say something exactly how you mean to say it or you want to, you can't beat yourself up over it, because the people, they're going to come for you regardless. They come for me all the time in my comments, but you just have to like, okay, and move on.
Yeah, and that was something that I definitely because I monitor a lot of your pages and I see how you react and how you respond to that, and I take a lot from that. As somebody who doesn't purposely put themselves out there a lot, I haven't had a lot of dealings with that, so it's always good to kind of see how someone deals with that. Speaking of which, there's reasons why we listen to different podcasters and vlogs and everything else, and we watch different people and personalities. And one of the things, since I can't really interview Flav, I really always kind of wanted to interview you on this, and I feel like it's something somewhat similar. We can tie it similar to Trey and Brock, but it is going to be different because we're talking about defensive backs and quarterbacks. And you do one of the things that I really like about whenever I get a chance to either, shoot a tweet over at Kurt Warner or someone like you, what I like about your guys' background is that you've played competitively at just about every single level that there can be. One of my favorite questions was asking you, what's the difference between, this football league versus the NFL versus Division II, Division I, AA, 3A, all that stuff. Like, you actually know because you experienced it. What I wanted to ask you is this. You coach kids, right? And you do. So not only is it something that you've done, but it's still something that you're actively taking a part of. You're making sure that they have the right techniques and everything else, and the mental warfare, the mental frame to be ready to kind of go into the next section or phase in their life in a competitive sense. When you coach kids that are talented and raw versus coaching a kid who's fundamentally sound, and I think this is something a lot of the viewers don't really take into account when we're talking with you and how you evaluate defensive backs who are going to be, in the pro football, draft. But what is that conversation like with the parents, right? Like, because I got to imagine, like, there's a little bit of tiptoeing because they're paying you probably pretty good bread to coach their kids. But at the same time, there has to be a level of honesty and contrite and what's kind of going on. And then how do you see that pan out when you watch these kids? I'm sure you still follow them as they grow with that.
A lot of it is from the jump, talking to the parents about what they want for their child. So everybody's kind of situations are different with how they view their child. Like, some parents will tell you straight up, I know my kid might not play after high school, but at least can we get him to have a good high school experience playing ball, start multiple years, etc. There are some kids, and there's some kids out here in Arkansas that I've trained, where I look at them and I'm like, dude, you don't know how talented you are. Like, you should have SEC schools knocking at your door right now trying to get you. But your work ethic, like, you got to get these things down. You got to do this. Shoot, this kid, Kevion Brown, KB, 6'2", 185-pound freshman receiver, fluid mover, all that. But it's like, I need you to buy into, like, training. And some of these guys, the issue is with guys that are just naturally more talented. They've been able to get by more on either their size or just their ability. So those are the kids that don't focus as much on the details. So where you really win is when you get a kid that has the size, the ability, and also focuses on the details, because eventually it'll click and he'll get it, and then he'll be what you think he can potentially be. But as far as other kids, a lot of times you just never know how far they'll go until you actually see it happen. And that might be like, Trey Lance and Brock Purdy, right? Like 6'4", 225 pounds, runs well, cannon of an arm. It's like, okay, if we could just get him to buy into doing these things. But then there's the other kid, barely, not even 6'1", 212 pounds or whatever, doesn't have a big arm. But a lot of those guys have to rely on the mental aspect of things, doing things the right way, and being gritty, all those things that Brock Purdy is and brings to the table, being the great leader, right? So that's why you see him hit the ground running. It's like, man, I've had to rely on being this guy as opposed to somebody that has more talent. And sometimes that's why you see the more talented guy, like even a Josh Allen, where it just takes time. As opposed to if he were, Mac Jones, who came into the league and was already a damn near 70% passer. So the more talented guys, you typically see them early on lean more on their ability and things that you can't teach, as opposed to the guys that might not be as physically gifted And I say that with no disrespect to Brock Purdy. I think he was like Mr. Arizona or something like that. So
Absolutely, yeah. And one of the things too I want to say is that when I'm looking at Brock or when I'm looking at Trey, I like to grade him like a first peer evaluation. I think Brock in his draft class, I think, was head and shoulders as far as the amount of starts they had. So you look at his like first 7 starts, head and shoulders above anybody else in that class. When I look at Trey and his 3.5 games, right, he was actually doing a lot better than his peers drafted out of that same draft class that were there, kind of in there. So I don't like to do an apples and oranges to comparison.
and keep talking. I'm just gonna plug my laptop charger.
Absolutely. But one of the things that I do, one of the things is you can definitely see Brock's experience when it comes down to in relation to the nuance of throwing, right? Looking off linebackers, safeties, that sort of thing. It's really remarkable because we still have to remember he's just really like a freshman. You know, he hasn't even had a full season, no matter how we want to categorize it. And even the 49ers brain trust was saying, you know, they didn't even see or know what they had in Brock Purdy, which makes sense because he was the last pick in the draft. So kudos to whatever scout said, hey, you need to just draft this guy. Hopefully that guy got like a nice $25,000, $30,000 bonus for picking that. But when I look at Trey Lance, is that you can sometimes tell what throw that he's going to make. The whole processing part, I didn't like how they said he couldn't process anything. I actually think Trey's post-snap processing ability is better than that of Sam Darnold's. What I like about Trey Lance is that he's able to make those throws even when the defense is able to anticipate those throws. And those are the kind of throws that you're going to have to make in a playoff atmosphere. It felt to me a little bit, and again, we're picking apart small sample sizes. And really, this could be when I look at this 49ers quarterback room, and I'm looking at Trey Lance and I'm looking at Brock Purdy. In a weird way, I kind of see something similar with the Chargers. When the Chargers had Drew Brees and they had Phillip Rivers. Yeah, and you're just kind of seeing Brock Purdy in that Drew Brees role, and then you're seeing Trey Lance in that Phillip Rivers kind of role, which that it might be kind of a Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers light, but I definitely see something there similar. But again, when I look at the way that the Seahawks are stacking up their secondary, and I love the way they've been drafting their secondary. It actually pains me to say that. Croc, I don't know how you feel about some of the secondary talent that they've been recruiting over the years, but I've looked at that and I'm going like, eventually it's going to take an arm to beat that kind of secondary, because I could see them after this season, if some of those guys work out, that then they do kind of what they did in 2011, which is then just bet the farm, bring in anybody who has any kind of pass rushing ability, and then just play 8 or 9 in the box and just be devastating again. But I don't know. Am I way off on that? Am I over crediting who they've drafted?
I think that the offset is Kyle Shanahan and his ability to put players in conflict, regardless of who you have in the secondary or at the linebacker position. But there's a person that I feel like might be able to answer this question a little bit better. All right. And we got my guy Shunder Boy, aka Niner Nerd Pod. All right, so you got a podcast, Niner Nerd Podcast?
It'll be coming out in about 3 weeks.
Let's go.
I'm going to try to get it started at the beginning of training camp. I'm putting some videos together now that I'm putting kind of behind the scenes on a channel that I'm getting going on YouTube, but nothing is actually launched or effective. I just want to kind of make sure I have the names right and stuff like that. And I've gone through a couple of iterations, and I just had to go with something that I felt like was authentic, and I'm a giant nerd, so it works.
I love it.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on everything today? I know you were tuned in.
So I'm going to be kind of spicy, if that's okay, because I've kind of done a 180. And I feel like this is like the perfect day to be a little bit spicy, because this thing got a little bit spicy today. So I was huge on Trey Lance. When he came out of the draft, I was all about it, because it was I felt like it was the perfect situation where a team is ready, built, and all the guy has to do is come in, learn, and like if he's not great right away, like if he comes out and throws 10 picks or 10 touchdowns and 17 picks, like the team's still going to win some games, and it's not like the team can carry him while he figures it out. He got hurt, things went sideways, and now the team's in a position where they don't have time anymore. And stuff like that. And that's all one thing. However, the part that I'm noticing is this. If I asked you, so let me ask you this. You've been in a lot of locker rooms, around a lot of guys, professional football at different levels. You ever have a guy walk into the huddle on practice field or whatever, and you just look at the guy and like, yeah, you don't have it. That's just not it, right? You can just tell this he's not going to make it.
Remember, you're coaching young adults here, Croc, so careful what you say.
You can't tell me on that 90-man Jets roster there wasn't a guy that walked in the locker room and you're just like, yeah, you're going to be gone in 2 days, bro.
You know, at the NFL level, that it's how can I explain this? The gap is very small, typically between good and the guys that might not be able to play.
Yeah.
So it's smaller. It's a smaller gap that I think most people think. So it's hard for me to, because maybe I was that guy, maybe.
Yeah.
When you see these guys, like everybody, like when you're on the practice field with these guys every single day, you'll see good and bad. I mean, there's times I saw Antonio Cromartie get worked. I saw Antonio Cromartie, who was coming off of an all-pro year, get beat so bad that he started fighting the guy. So, like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, man, well, I saw Crow get whooped here. Crow get whooped here. Clearly, he can't play. Like, no, he can't because he's an all-pro. So, it's really hard for me to just say that unless it was somebody who was out there that just always got dogged, and I just never saw that. There was a guy, I remember, I don't want to say his name, but there was a certain receiver who actually made the team with the Jets. And I remember being surprised. He made the squad over. So like, there was that where I was surprised that somebody made it over a couple other guys, but just in the sense of walking in and into a huddle or locker room, Tim Tebow maybe. And I remember just routes on air watching Tim Tebow.
He can't hit it.
He was throwing balls into the ground like one hopping guys. I'm like, man, my brother, nigga, Tim Tebow stinks. So maybe Tim Tebow, that might be the one guy who I just was like, that don't look right, But Geno, and I've talked about on here, there was a time where Geno Smith threw an interception to me. He might not remember this. I definitely remember. But I was wrong in how I played the coverage. He was wrong, which, however, he saw the coverage, and he threw a ball to a spot where there was no receiver there. It was just me. He was confused. I was confused with why I was even there in that spot. But that just goes to show you there, too, like, sometimes something could look like what it's not, and also there's still a lot of learning going on. And I think early on, maybe Geno, there were a lot of hit and miss moments, and it took him some time to truly learn how to improve on that. And a lot of time, maybe longer than others. And I think maybe there, could be maturity and things like that, but I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't know if I've ever just walked in and been like, that guy just can't play.
So the reason I ask that is because football is a little different. Like, so when you look at like a singer, right, you hear him sing, it's like, okay, they can be the singer, they can't. Like, there's not, like, you can usually tell, like, okay, yeah, that person's not very good. When it comes to football, by the time you get to the NFL, everybody's really, really good, right? Yeah. And you don't always know right away. However, if you go out there and you spend an entire offseason with somebody, like, without ever seeing them play in a game, you have a general idea of kind of what their level of ability is. That doesn't mean it can't improve. That doesn't mean that that's their ceiling. That's what I'm saying. But you generally know the guys who, okay, this guy's got what it takes. This guy probably doesn't, so on and so forth. After 2 years of that, without ever seeing a game, you're going to have a fairly clear picture. It's extremely rare for somebody to not, like, if you're not sure after 2 years whether somebody is or is not the guy, then it's not.
Well, he might not be
No.
for that situation. And
Correct.
that,
Correct.
now let's say Trey Lance.
Yeah.
This is me, and then I have to actually get out of here because I'm supposed to be on another podcast.
Mhm.
But Trey Lance, I went to 3 practices last year. That's not a lot, right? That's not 2 years worth.
Yeah.
I went to 3 practices last year. And my main takeaway, it never even fathomed in my head, this is not a guy, like he can't start for the 49ers.
Mhm.
Or it never even popped in my head, Brock Purdy is better than Trey Lance. Like that thought never even crossed my mind. Now, I've heard somebody else say that. So maybe in the practices that they watch, maybe that was something that they ended up thinking. But I know just watching practice, I thought Nate Sudfeld threw the ball extremely well. I was like, man, that might be the best thrower out there consistently.
Of the football.
Yeah. I mean, he was very efficient. He was accurate. He was throwing the ball well. He was tall. He was like a perfect spiral every time. Like it looked really good. I was like, damn, that looks pretty good. And the 49ers were like, nope, we don't even want him. We want Brock Purdy. We see something different in him. So that's the hard part where me watching the practice there and seeing Trey Lance do a bunch of good things. Like a bunch. They have moved the stick periods and it was like 3rd down and 6 and Trey Lance throws a dart in between 2 guys and throwing deep crossers, but then he threw a pick 6 to Jimmy Ward in the flat. Didn't see him. He kind of turned late, threw it, and Ward picked it off. So then there was that. But then I see him, it's like 2-minute drill, and he's just pew, 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 boom. They go down the field, and Trey Lance scored. So I didn't think that, like, oh, this is a guy that can't play or can't start for the 49ers. And that was without me even knowing that the 49ers were going to have the number 1 defense. So I think it's maybe if you're somebody that knows exactly what's going on and what somebody is missing or not missing in the sense of how Kyle Shanahan wants the play to be designed and then they're not executed that way, you might view it drastically different than me, someone who doesn't know and doesn't have replay and is not going back and forth, but I'm just watching and saying like, dude, looks fine to me. I don't see anything like
Two quick questions before you get out of here, Croc. Blake Brown at 4:01 p.m. my time asked, "What podcast are you heading to, Croc?"
My guy Ruthless CJ
Ruthless. Yeah,
CJ Ruthless. He's gonna be him and my guy Josh Harper. So I'm about to go on theirs.
Okay, and then another question I have for you, because I want to make sure you have time to prep and get that bird out of the oven there, so it's not too Cajun style. Where are you at with your media credentialing pass? With having that,
I've asked my people. Here's the thing: they want to give it. They give it to writers. It's easy to get it if you're writing. I don't know if I have to act like I write for a thing and just put out some articles real quick. I'm pretty sure there's some.
You need to, bro. You need to, bro.
I can be like, hey, like credential me, and they probably will. To be honest, maybe I just need to go do that.
Yeah.
But it's not hard if you're a writer. For whatever reason, they push back on podcasters, which is definitely weird. They pick and choose. Haberman and Middlecoff might have a different relationship with them to where they get in no matter what. Peacock and I, who have the biggest, most listened to 49er specific podcast, we don't get that same love. And we're on the actual network. It's not even like, oh, just 2 guys. And it's like, no, we're on the network. It's a huge network. A lot of great shows. We're doing big numbers. During the playoffs, I mean, shoot, we were top 10 in the world on the Apple Pods and Spotify and stuff like that. And it's like, we can't get no love to get credentialed to, get up close. So I don't know what it's going to take, but hopefully they let us in soon. But I do got to go. I got a super chat. I got to answer real quick and then get out of here. Oh, go ahead.
I just want to drop one last thing. This is the spicy part. Trey Lance won't be on the team this year. If he does not get traded before the week 1, he will get cut.
Wrong. That's wrong.
At a certain point, Kyle Shanahan, when he's done with you, he's done with you. And it's usually after your 2nd training camp. And that is the same with Dante Pettis. It's the same with several people who he was bought in on. Spicy as it may be. And secondary, Brock Purdy's greatest physical asset is his spine, his ability to stand up to people and own a room. Eventually, need someone to stand up to him and just go make a friggin' play.
All right, real quick, and to
I gotta go back to work.
Greg says it usually doesn't take long to see if a younger QB has it or not. NFL is definitely different. We are talking 1% of all college players, which makes it a lot more difficult to differentiate a guy being able to play and not being able to play, because a lot of them, especially if you just see them throwing on the air and stuff, it typically looks pretty good. But
How many players get cut early and then come back and make a Pro Bowl? Like, where you look at your boy in Seattle, he's one of one in 10 years. How many people get cut and then make a Pro Bowl later in their career?
How many others maybe could have or would have gotten cut if not for their draft status that started off rocky, but then ended up being good, right? So like
I totally agree.
The Jalen Hurts,
yeah, for sure. Josh Allen, if he got drafted in the fourth, yeah.
Like
that's a great point.
And it's like, but the next coaching staff came in and was just like, oh no, we're gonna rock with him and we'll see. And they had multiple first round picks. I thought what they were doing was, hey, we got multiple first round picks the next year. Hey, we'll just rock with them and we'll see. Because if it doesn't work out, man, we can get Bryce Young or CJ Stroud or any of these other guys. But if it does, hey, then we're good.
Yeah, I'm about to exit the chat, but before I do, Croc, if you wouldn't mind just letting the audience know what's the most times you picked off Greg Pinelli in practice.
Okay, then he got out of here. Greg would tell you that I only picked him off once or so. I would say that I picked Greg off at least 3 times minimum. Cover 2. I got him every time. Here's the secret in cover 2. Here's the secret in cover 2. And I'll let you out of here too. I know you're getting out of here, Shunda boy.
Yeah.
So, appreciate you coming on.
Appreciate you. Hey, like, subscribe. Everybody, hit the buttons.
All right. So here's the thing with cover 2. And this is what I did with my main man, Greg Pinelli, who says he's sick of Josh Allen. But I mean, Josh Allen is basically his little brother. All right. But here's what I did to Greg. And this is why I try to teach younger guys. But some guys, I don't know if you either have this ability or not. I don't know. Show the quarterback the picture that they want to see. Now look at him. How many times you get wrote? Look, we're not talking about how many times I got toasted in practice. First of all, only person that ever toasted me at MJC, I didn't give up a touchdown, nothing. Goddamn Vince Andrews. And he was, come on, Greg. Vince Andrews was he was like baby Tyreek Hill. Not even baby Tyreek Hill. He was like same size. But show the picture the quarterback wants to see. All right. So in cover 2, I know the quarterback wants to see one or two things. He wants to see me either back so he can hit that shallow in the smash concept, or he wants me up so he can hit that corner in the smash concept. So I'm going to show you. I know you want to see me down or up. So what am I going to do? I'm going to play down and anticipate you throwing that corner. Because if you see me down, you're throwing the corner. So I would just show body presence. All you got to do is show body presence. Show body presence. As soon as that he pulls the pin, that arm goes back. Pew, I'm peeled back. Too late. Interception. Eric Crocker. Too late. All right. So that's how I got Greg Pinelli. Real quick, man. Bunch of super chats. My bad, y'all. My bad. And then I got this other podcast. I'm late. And then my chicken and all this other stuff. All right. Let's get to some of these. Here we go. Seahawks studied twice, only to score potential 5 touchdowns. He's talking about Brock Purdy. The Seahawks got chances to play him, and they got to watch him, and it didn't work. I would say that context kind of matters with some of that. And that's not that Brock Purdy won't be great or amazing or anything like that. I'm just saying that there is some context. I think heading into the fourth quarter, he completed like 13 out of 21 passes, like 22 passes. It wasn't great. I think he barely completed like 50% of his passes in that game, but he had some great run after catch plays. Like Debo, and you'll see 300 yards, all that. Debo took 75 yards. It was like a 10-yard pass that he took 75. Now, I'm not knocking Brock for that, but if we're talking about just how well he played, there you go back and look, and near interceptions, things like that. It was like if they studied him, they have some things right. There are also some things that they couldn't account for, like Debo taking the 75. All right. But, I think he's going to be fine. All right, here we go. Next one. Trey and Brock ran 2 different offenses with different personnel, apples and oranges comparison. I would say that Kyle felt like he needed to tailor an offense a certain way to Trey Lance and didn't have to do that necessarily with Brock Purdy. That's what it feels like. But he also has done that with other black quarterbacks he's coached, so there's that too. All right, official B&A music Flav is the type of person that would have said Warren Moon was undraftable for the obvious reasons. Where's your Trey equals Tebow? Yes. My wife is bored, so she's like looking at me through the crack in my door right now. Is the chicken good? Yeah. It is? When can we eat? Do you like that honey sriracha? I do. All right, you put the honey sriracha on the chicken. You feel me? I'm hungry. You're hungry? I got to cook some rice to go with that, and I got some little hors d'oeuvres. Sprinkle it on there? Yeah, a little sprinkle. Okay, but I am live, huh? Are you almost done? Kind of, not really though, but all right, love you. All right, okay, so there's that one. We got Case. I saw you in here. I know we didn't get to you in the chat. Says Trey's first 3 stars are best of his class. And to be honest, that's crazy, but it kind of is. There's a lot of slow play from that class out the gate. And he's talking about, Trevor Lawrence. Maybe Mac Jones might have had some better. It kind of started a little bit weird for Mac Jones. And then they went on a run. Not joking, by the end of the first preseason, I had seen enough to know that he was basically Deshaun Kaiser, Flav. 6'23", but you didn't say, never mind. All right, so he's talking about this is something that Flav has said, and I don't even say this about Deshaun Kaiser, who somebody I was like, I think he might be kind of good. Deshaun Kaiser, man, he played for a terrible Browns team. I think anytime you play for a team that's just really bad, it's hard. Like, it's hard to be good. It's hard to be good. And that might need to be an entire show. Like, just how hard it is to play and be a successful quarterback when your team is just the worst. It's hard. Joe Burrow showed signs. And even then, it was like, damn, these niggas suck. Greg thought today was a little juicy. I thought I got a little juicy, a little testy in there. A little testy, a little juicy. Shout out to my guy, Greg. Appreciate the $2. And Niner Nerd needs to turn his, to burn his logic. So, Shunda Boy, that's definitely directed towards you. All right, man. Great show. Ran longer than expected because I got to go run to a show right now. I got my guy. Come on, man. I got my guy, Josh Harper, waiting. I can't have Josh waiting. So I do appreciate everybody that contributed to such a great show. Whether you agree or disagree with it, let's have open conversations. I get people that attack me in the comments. They're like, how you attack Eric Crocker? I'm like the chillest dude. Just come on live and let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. All right. So, hey, that honey sriracha. Listen, Chris. First of all, you see me, man. I'm really out here cooking. All right. I ain't get lean like this for no reason. You feel me? And I'm lean right now for the most part. Abs coming through, all that good stuff. But the honey sriracha, man, that is a game changer. I put it on the baked chicken with a bunch of other little spices. I can't, you know what I'm saying, give y'all all my little little boom wop. But yeah, anyways, I'm talking too much. I appreciate everybody in here. Y'all know what to do, man. All that good stuff. Hit the like button and
Subscribe to this video.
shout out to 187. Known Brock Purdy fan in the chat says great show. Hey, if 187 liked the show, how do you not like this show, man? Hit the like button, subscribe, all that good stuff. Man, hey, Greg, I'm really a chef out here. One day I might cook for you and the wifey, man. You never know. I can't give away my receipts, but we'll keep going live on this channel. Appreciate everybody. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, all that good stuff. Chef Crocky, I'm out. Y'all almost made me burn my chicken, but it's good. Wifey came to the rescue.